Hello, I'm David Breeden, and this is Coffee and Wisdom, when we take a humanist look at theological and philosophical questions. For the month of May, I do want to look at a term that is very popular and very misused, perhaps at times, within theology, and that is syncretism. I'm going to call this sin and syncretism because sin as a concept also is one of those things that floats around in different contexts in different ways, as we will see. Well, what is syncretism? Wikipedia defines it this way. Syncretism is the combining of different beliefs in various schools of thought. Syncretism involves the merging or assimilation of several originally discrete traditions, especially in the theology and mythology of religion, thus asserting an underlying unity and allowing for an inclusive approach to other faiths. Well, you see why it is important within theological ideas, but we'll see some philosophy going on as well. The Oxford dictionaries tell us the etymology of syncretism. It is a bit of a weird word, isn't it? It's not something we use in everyday English, but there it is. It's an important concept. What does it mean? Well, it does come to us from Latin, but out of Greek. And in Greek, it meant unite against a third party. And this ambiguity and this oddness to this definition is one of the things we're going to be looking at. So sun, S-U-N, Greek meant together, and kres as Cretan. So it means that we're going to get together to oppose the Cretans, is the idea. Okay, well, what did that mean in terms of ancient Greek? Well, the Cretans were considered a little bit out there, a little bit foreign. The Cretan style of Greek is a sub-dialect of Greek, and so hey, those Cretans are foreigners. That was the thought in those days. But as the idea has gotten considerably larger than that. If you begin to search around online, you're going to find all kinds of different ways of treating this idea of syncretism. I want to cover this briefly today, and then we're going to go much more deeply into it. But here it says, syncretism, blending differing religious beliefs, philosophies, and practices into something new. Are you guilty? Well, yeah, in some religious traditions, syncretism is the enemy. Well, here's something for a nice bus. Shalom, y'all. That's syncretism at work. Yes, good old Southernisms mixing in with Hebrew. So there you have it. Well, it's a very serious topic. A lot of PhDs have been earned on the topic, and there are lots of very fine books out there looking at various aspects of syncretism, both the history of how these things have developed and also how our contemporary world, because of our global community that we now live in, are still mashing things together. So one book is Beyond Conversion and Syncretism, Indigenous Encounters with Missionary Christianity, 1800 to 2000. And yes, so we have the colonial Christianity coming in. How did that fit in with the various forms of local religions? Syncretism and Religion, a reader. And yes, the illustration on the front is good old Santa Claus with angel wings. And yes, that's one of the interesting things about syncretism is how we come up with things like that. Or Ross Kane's Syncretism and Christian Tradition, going back and looking at race and revelation in the study of religious mixture. Is how that is subtitled. Well, a perfect example of syncretism does have to do with Santa Claus. You too can go on a line around Christmas time and get yourself a nice little figurine or painting with this mythological character, Santa Claus, in his nice red outfit with his hat off, praying to baby Jesus in a manger. And so we have this meeting, this syncretism between a so-called pagan and Christian icon, Santa Claus, meeting up with another icon, Jesus in a manger. That is syncretism. We understand immediately, those of us who live in the United States anyway, know exactly what they're saying, that, yeah, the materialistic Santa Claus must bow before the religious meaning of the holiday. Yeah, it's an interesting syncretism. Well, this is something I found online, and this is an anti-syncretism little tile. World number one, non-biblical pagan worldview. That's going to go into the pot. Worldview number two, the biblical worldview. That's going to go into the pot. And worldview number three, new belief, the result of combining one and two. And what this slide is saying is that's a really bad idea. Well, we'll see how that all works out as we proceed. One of the earliest syncretisms on a major, almost a worldwide web of the ancient world was the ancient Silk Road. And that led to a great deal of syncretism. In this particular map, we see it beginning in China and going all the way to Italy. Actually, it's going to be much wider than that because all of the cities along this huge ancient road were being fed into from other areas. So China is getting trade and ideas from all over Southeast Asia, and the Italians are getting ideas from all over the Mediterranean and European world. The Silk Road is better known as the Silk Route. The Silk Road has taken on a sort of a life of its own, so that's probably going to be where it stays in terms of a term. But Silk Route is actually much better as a descriptor. It really begins around 130 before the Common Era with a movement in China, as we will see. And then it was actually a series of roads, a vast networks of roads that lasted, it was active until the 1100s of the Common Era. So we're talking about over 1,000 years of human history of Asia, the subcontinent, and Europe. Back and forth in terms of ideas. Eventually, the Silk Route covered 4,500 miles. It was based on an earlier idea of Darius from the Persian Empire, around 500 before the Common Era. The idea for what we in the US came up with later a Pony Express, a way of getting information across the empire. So the Royal Road of the Persian Empire that started out near the Persian Gulf and went all the way over into Greece. So the idea of tying together culture by these roads that are going to speed up transportation, because yes, in the ancient world, they didn't have these superhighways yet. But back to the ancient Silk Road. We're going to start out in China and then go across this vast steppe area. Samarkand becomes the sort of center of the ideas of this melting pot of the ancient world, but it's going to go through Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq into Syria and Lebanon, and then into the Palestinian area, Israel and Jordan, down along that area of the Mediterranean, and then on up into Turkey, and then to Greece, and then ultimately to Italy. And again, then those trading routes are going to spread out around the Mediterranean and through Europe. So we have a lot of people trading, but they're trading a lot more than just silk along that way. So yes, trade goods, and that was really the impetus for the Silk Route early on, is just simple trade. And no, China was not trading with Rome. That's not the way it really worked. There were trades all the way up and down. So for this 50-mile stretch, we're going to be trading this, et cetera, et cetera. And it adds up to a vast trading route eventually. Another thing that spread was ideas. Human beings do talk with each other. So ideas and philosophy. The religious part of it is the most famous, as we will see, but also a mixture of languages, a mixture of technology and innovation, and unfortunately, disease. As we've seen in our current pandemic, the world gets to be a very small place very quickly when disease is involved. Probably what's known as the Black Death of Europe that killed almost 50% of the European population probably came along the Silk Road. Well, let's look at the other end of that. Of course, again, some of the outcomes that are going to occur because of the Silk Road. Yes, on the big map, we're going to have this little dot that's China, but we are very definitely connected to the rest of Southeast Asia. And so ideas are going to be spreading very quickly. Buddhism comes out of northern India and it immediately spreads through India all the way into the north of Central Asia, but also into Indonesia and ultimately Japan. And so all of this is connected in terms of ideas. Well, for example, one example is An Shi-gao, who circa 148 to 180 of the Common Era. He was a prince from Parthia, which is in northern Iran, and he became a Buddhist and then goes and takes Buddhism to China. So you see how the Silk Road is going to begin to do some very interesting things, especially with religion. We're going to have a prince in Iran moving to China with his new idea of Buddhism from India. Well, syncretism went even a step further when it did eventually reach China. You're going to see in iconography a good many depictions of three different people when you look at the religions of China. And what are those going to be? Well, they're going to be Buddhism that I was just talking about. They're going to be Confucianism, which was a native development, and then Taoism, also a native element that are all going to be all mixed together. Well, one of the things they say is these are the three sages. This is a little cartoon that is indicative of what the three sages do when they are represented together in Chinese iconography. Here we have the vinegar is sour. We must teach the correct recipe in order to make proper pickles. Well, that's Confucius. We have to get the recipe right in order to make good pickles or have a good life. And the middle character is going to be a Buddhist who says the vinegar is bitter only by not desiring a pickle and eliminate the bitterness. Well, there you go. Getting past the idea of desire as the Buddhist answer. And then we have Taoism. And Lao Tzu, the writer of the original text in Taoism, says, it's all good. Sure, the vinegar is sour and bitter, but this is the way nature intends pickles to taste. And there you have a very good summary of how these three religions are going to deal with issues. And indeed, we're not going to see this great, huge battle. And I don't want to minimize that. And we do need to look at how Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism did clash and did lead to the usual problems that clashing religions do in China. But generally speaking, in China, and certainly going into Japan, we have this idea that these three religions, these three traditions, have some very good elements that can be syncretized, can be put together to tell us how to live a good life. Now, Manichaeism is a religion we don't hear much about these days. It does theoretically still exist. It's not a huge world religion anymore, but Manichaeism is known as the Silk Road religion. Why? Well, it was founded in the 3rd century of the Common Era by the Parthian prophet Mani. Parthian comes up again. That is northern Iran, part of the Persian Empire. Mani is going to come up with a syncretized version of religion. So the spread of Manichaeism, well, but yep, it's going to spread on the Silk Road, both east, west, and north and south. It mostly stays within the Mediterranean basin and in India and Iran for the most part, but not entirely. Manichaeism, it talks about a struggle between the good spiritual world, the world of light, and this evil, dark world, the world of materialism, and how this is forever a battle between the two. The four prophets of Manichaeism are Mani, the guy who thinks of it, Zoroaster, who is the founder of Zoroastrianism, the Buddha, and Jesus. No, these guys didn't meet in a conference table somewhere and decide we're going to invent a new religion. No, Mani decided that these all had something in common. And I'm going to have four prophets in my new religion: myself, Zoroaster, Buddha, and Jesus. We're going to mix the elements of those four religions together, and we're going to come up with the Silk Road religion, a syncretist religion that contains the best elements of all of those. And this is an early example of someone trying to put together these various cultural ideas into some kind of a larger truth that we can figure out and talk about. And well, and by showing a little tile here, we have a very Buddhist Jesus with very on the one side, yes, a very Asian elements to the painting, but also very Christian elements, and also the yin and yang Tao symbol all the way around a circle there with Jesus being enlightened. So there you have it, a perfect example of syncretism and the way that religion puts these things together. Well, on Thursday, I want to talk some more about this, and I'm going to look back at these ideas out of fundamentalism that we can somehow keep synchronistic elements out of the religion and therefore keep it pure, quote unquote, and how that operates. Thanks for listening today. If you have comments or questions, I minister at firstunitarian.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and I will see you on Thursday.